Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Chris LaFollette here with me today. He's the president and CEO at the Arizona Industries for the Blind. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it, Tim. Looking forward to a good show and a good conversation.
Yes, for sure. I've had someone else on the show this summer, Tanner Gears. He's part of, are you familiar with him?
I do know Tanner. I've had lots of time with Tanner. Smart guy, really good person.
Okay. Yeah, he was a great guest, doing a lot of interesting stuff. One of the things is his company, Accessibility Officer.
Yes, sir.
I think.
Yes, sir.
His company. Okay.
Yes.
Is that, can you well, why don't you give us a little more background on yourself, and then we can talk about how you might know Tanner and sort of the services you guys provide.
It's a little strange, man. I got drafted out of high school to play baseball by the Orioles. It was a mistake. I was an All-American in high school, but unfortunately got this is well before the internet and didn't get known, but got drafted in the 41st round, which is not really good. So I was planning to go on NC State, but they gave me a little bit more money than the 41st rounder ever gets, and so I was happy. I played baseball about 4 years with the Orioles organization.
Very nice.
Injuries set up, and I could not continue. So I decided to go back to college or go to college. And I went to HBCU, historically Black College University there in Fayetteville. And it was fantastic for me. It was a great foundation for me to learn differently, do differently, and realize there's other ways to think than my traditional ways that I was brought up. So it was a great way, great platform for me. I went straight from there into a company that started nutrition on military bases. I think I was 24, 25 years old. And it's a great piece of learning and education for me, because this company allowed me the autonomy to go out and use what I really enjoyed is talking with people, getting to know them, and explain health and wellness to our military. We started with one store at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. We grew into 23 stores within about 4.5 years. Of course, a franchise. This little small company called GNC saw what we were doing, liked our model, a little bit more money than we had, and they came over and bought us out. And I was very fortunate that during that time, I took a little time off and met some people that happened to be working with people with disabilities. And I have a daughter who has severe disabilities, and it sounded like a unique business. And when you talk about disabilities in business, it struck a chord for me, because for me, all I knew was the health field, vocational rehab, physical therapy, things like that. But I didn't realize the business aspect of it. And this company actually did batteries and picture frames for the federal government. No synergies whatsoever, Tim. So great learning tool for me, and something totally different I had been and doing in my career. About a 180-degree turn to go from corporate America to a nonprofit. But I quickly learned there's no such thing really as nonprofit. It's out there. You better be hustling. And what a great company to work for out of Eastern North Carolina. Stayed with them for about 10 years, very successful, did some really unique things, and had an opportunity to become the DoD liaison for Energizer batteries. So I did so for about 10 years, along with some other pieces of business, and I started a consulting group for people who want to do business with the military. And very successful, enjoyed it. It was lucrative, all the things that you want it to be. And but at the end of the day, what fulfilling for me. I felt like there was something else I wanted to do, a calling per se. And I was still dealing with nonprofits and how they do business with the federal government. So and people knew this, and so I was offered this position almost 6 years ago next month by our former president, Dick Monaco. And it was a way to get back in this industry full time, and very fortunate to do so. So I've been working with DoD, federal government, for probably the last almost 30 years, give or take. And again, there's always, when you say DoD, it's easy to say Department of Defense, but it's there's many different segments within
Sure.
DoD. And a lot of people get confused, but don't forget, there's also good business to be done with our Department of Defense. Those small little
Right.
companies like Northrop Grumman and GE and all those things they've done pretty well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They've managed.
They've managed. I don't know how they do it, but they've managed.
Okay. Wow, there's a lot there. A lot of pivots for you and
A
growth
lot of
there,
pivots.
which it's actually interesting. I'm reading a book right now by Carol Dweck called Mindset. Are you familiar with it?
I know just briefly. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, she talks a lot about sports in there, right? And
Yes,
it's a
sir.
great one. And she talks there's a lot of examples, but like for baseball, right? She talks about Billy Beane, right? And how you look at Lenny Dykstra and like who Billy Beane, just for our listeners, was an incredible athlete, right? He was like quarterback, he was a rock star, and he didn't handle challenges very well though. And so it took him quite a while to be able to get into the growth mindset, right? And he had a fixed mindset, and things always sort of came easy to him. And so when he actually did have to struggle and stuff, he yeah, he basically got let go, right,
Yeah.
out of the Major League Baseball. But other people who weren't as talented outworked him, right? And he learned from that, and then he later went on to be very successful, right, with the A's and stuff. But um, anyway, you've had to do that. You've had to grow and change and pivot, and as you said about nonprofits too, there you always have to be adding value. There's you don't just sit back and
The days of collecting quote unquote a paycheck from the government is long gone, Tim.
right.
Those days are gone. But you know, we're fortunate. We're part of Create Independence, and the pride that goes along with that, Tim, is not only encouraging but it's refreshing. I have an old school mentality. Started working at the age of 7 in tobacco field, so was taught how to work hard, work with your hands, and appreciate a good hard day's work. Um, and ironically, I'm seeing a change now where things are moving in a different direction where some entitlements come in, but that doesn't happen in the disability community. It's ironic. You would think it does, but it's actually
Right.
polar opposite. We have
Okay.
hard workers. You know, one of the things we've done, you talked about a team atmosphere. We've changed our handbook to go from employee to team. There's not one position here that's not answerable, accountable to each other. We're
Okay.
only
Nice.
successful if we're beside, hand in hand, working hand in hand. And it's been successful for us. We continue to grow. We're meeting a need, but at the same time, we're here to employ people who are blind or visually impaired at Arizona Industries for the Blind. And it's so key, Tim, because we take that into an atmosphere of where people have in years past been entitled, and we create the really the resource for them to seek that independence. And it's
Right.
refreshing. At the end of the day, it's we talked about encouraging just briefly, but to see the will and the desire, it lets me know that we're not far off. We're doing pretty well, and tomorrow does look very good.
Right. Excellent. Yes, that's the whole teach somebody to fish, not give them a fish, right?
Yes,
And
sir. You're absolutely correct, and that's a great way to look at it. And that's some of the
empower
mindset we
them.
have here at AIB.
Okay. Excellent. And how long has AIB? You've been with them for 6 years, but how long has AIB been active in here in Arizona?
Well, we've been 1952. We've been in a couple different places, but what we've been doing for probably the last 26 to 28 years, we're extremely successful in 3PL. And when I say 3PL, it's third party logistics. And when
Okay.
people hear that, I love and I you get that aha moment when we bring people on tour. Everybody from Amazon to PepsiCo have been in the tour and they try to understand our secret. And I'll tell you here shortly, Tim, but they think they're coming on a goodwill tour, this
Ah,
Arizona Institute for the Blind. And, we have congressmen and senators and everybody loves photo ops. But when they walk in the door, they realize something's different. There's a lot of movement. When you go back into our warehouse, you realize there's something going on here at Arizona Industries for the Blind. We've got about 200,000 square feet of warehouse. We've got about 110, $112 million of goods, DoD goods they use. We have 3 big contracts, insignia. So anytime you see somebody in an Army, Air Force, Navy, Marine, Space Force, and Coast Guard uniform, there's a great chance that insignia on that uniform came from us.
Huh.
We take a lot of pride in that. We also do a lot of the lighting on the military aircrafts that we are flying around here in the valley. If you live near Luke or if you're down in Tucson, we also have a spring contract that puts springs on Humvees. We have the springs that go on Humvees as well as the big gun turrets that sit on Navy ships that weigh up to
Wow.
500 to 700 pounds. Those are our big contracts. But we ship out about 65,000 shipments a year, shipping out these goods, and we do that to about a 99.39% on-time delivery, and
Wow.
we have a stock accuracy of 99.999. And that little
Jeez.
small company I think it's called Amazon, would love to have that.
Right.
And we do that with human capital. Of course, we use technology and automation to assist, but we don't do it to replace. We believe in the human will, and that's human capital is what we're about.
Right.
Employment people with blind or visually impaired.
So how have you been able to set yourself apart? How are you achieving those numbers?
Look, Tim, I can give you the salesman pitch, or I can tell you the truth. Both of them go hand in hand. We just got really talented people. When you got talented people and they're driven, they're going towards a narrative and mission that everybody believes in, you're going to have success.
Right.
We've changed something called culture into a vibe. Maybe I'm trying to be cool in my older age and say that I can do things differently, but I'm listening to our population, listening to our team, and I don't want to be stuck in old ways of doing business. So we look at things differently, and so we go in and look at what the customer where their ills are, and we try to concentrate on those and fixing those first, because it's easy to say, hey, at the end of the day, we're just moving boxes. There's a lot of people that move boxes. FedEx does a great job moving. They're a great partner as well as UPS. But it's the in between. It's the pick, pack, ship. It's the warehousing. It's hey, we have a 3-day lead time compared to a 48-hour lead time. Those are all things that we adhere to. And I know it sounds a little silly, but our contracts stipulate that we have to have things out within 72 hours. And we're averaging right now at about a 32 hour window. So we go back and look what the customer needs are, and we also look at their ills, and we try to really surpass both. We fix their ills, and we try to surpass their expectations.
Okay. What sort of, I guess, tips would you give to other companies trying to reach those sort of numbers and performance and build that culture and
Well,
and instill that mission?
That's a great question. And the easiest one is hire somebody who's blind, visually impaired, or disabled right there. You're missing out. There's a 70% unemployment rate amongst people who are blind, visually impaired, or disabled. So there's a talent base sitting there, the people who won't have a desire to not only work, but do well. I can't say that about our population, here in the Valley or anywhere in our country. You want qualified, but you also want the talent that goes along with it and that desire.
Sure. The
Um,
work ethic
the
is
work
something
ethic, you talked
that's
about Billy Bean, and Billy Bean's a great example. Here's a guy had all the talent in the world, first round draft pick. But at the end of the day, people who work hard tend to surpass people with talent who do not
right.
work hard.
Yep.
And I would tell you that that is the case a lot of times. We do also have a lot of talented people. Um, but I would tell them, number one, the details will define where your outcome. A lot of times we want to do things better, faster, quicker. There's an old adage, we can do anything with time and money. And I agree with that. But if we're not paying attention to the details, it's easy to spend a lot of money and a lot of time trying
Right.
to do the right thing. So we try to do it the first time, and we try to do it right. And we base that model for our ongoing business. It's been successful for us for a number of years. Those ratios I've given you, that's not a day or two, that's not a week or two or a month or two. That's gone on for 28 years, Tim.
Nice.
And if it sounds like I'm prideful on that, I am. I'm extremely prideful. And trying to really, um, this sounds strange when you're talking about business, but we're chasing perfection and we're selling for excellence every day. And again, it sounds like an old sales approach, but at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to achieve in supporting that warfighter, and they deserve that, and we have the talent to be able to do so.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So, what would you say? It can be before the Arizona Institute work or there, but what is sort of been the biggest challenges to overcome in your positions?
Look, I've had many challenges from from the standpoint of being a CEO or a business owner, when it's number one dealing with DoD. There is a rhythm, there's an algorithm to doing business with DoD, and understanding that. I was raised between my house sat between a CW5 and a sergeant major, so I got a good dose of military discipline and understanding pretty early in my life. But I go back to what I just mentioned. Doing the right thing, assuring that I do it the first time so I eliminate mistakes. I had some great coaches that helped me do so. And to eliminate mistakes, make it simple as possible. And it doesn't matter if we're dealing with a negotiation, or we're dealing with an audit, or if we're dealing with a service, whatever it may be. If I can simplify it and really have expectations of doing it right the first time, then I'm going to eliminate, and that cost going along with doing it wrong and correcting it. That's the difference in making a profit or losing your business. And I've been very fortunate to learn that early on. And I take the mindset of an athlete, that there will be some wins, there will be some losses. I'm never happy with a loss, but I realize it's part of business. But I forget about it as soon as I go home. I cannot take it home with me.
Right.
And I've been very fortunate, again, that I had great coaches, great mentors who've helped me along the way. And when you sit in the seat where you make decisions every single day, you realize you're not going to make everyone right. And if I judge myself that way, I'm pretty happy. But I would say the biggest obstacle is perception of my position today. Because when they hear, oh, wow, you're third party logistics, that's wonderful. You got great ratios. Wait a second, you deal with a blind. And they have a hard time understanding that a nonprofit works as an enterprise nonprofit per se, and an enterprise business. That's difficult for a lot of people. So I would say perception is probably the biggest hurdle. Early on in my career, it was being the jock, kind of like what you mentioned, Billy Bean. You have to reinvent yourself time and time again. But at the end of the day, it's easy to work hard, because when you come from at 7 years old working in a tobacco field, everything else is much easier, Tim. So
True.
Makes the 12-hour days working in air conditioning a lot easier than in 12 hours out in the sun. So
for sure, perspective.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Perspective's everything.
Yep. Yep. You also mentioned learning from your losses, right? That's huge. They're going to happen, right? You win or you learn, right?
It's funny. I had a friend who did go. He tried several times with a business, and he was a broker, and he tried and tried. And he kept bringing new products. And he said, "Hey, man, I'm giving up. This is just not working for me." And I said, "Hey, are you sure?" Because he said, "No, I'm gonna get a 9 to 5. I'm about to starve to death here. I've got kids out there, and I'm pushing. Ain't nothing happening." And he had this one little small company get a hold of him, and it was years ago. And it's a company called 5 Hour Energy, and he took it to Walmart. He did pretty well after that, Tim. So again, it's staying a track, staying the course. But again, overcoming is really a big deal. Belief in yourself is a real big deal to me. But again, please understand, when I walk in the door, I'm not just fighting additional competition. I'm fighting people perception of what people who are blind or visually impaired can do.
Right. And
as we continue to be successful, we're eliminate that with a conversation at a time. But what's really impressive is seeing the work when people, quote unquote, the vision, when people come in the door and they see or they understand. That's important. So you put the two together, it's a powerful punch.
For sure. And that's a great way to segue into one of my other questions about having an impact in Phoenix is leveraging all those incredible resources, right? People right now, you hire for character and for work ethic. And that's back to what I mentioned earlier in the show was accessibility officer, right? Okay. There's some parallels there with, I think Tanner's group helps people, other companies hire the visually impaired, right?
That is correct. And he does a fantastic job. He's a great advocate. He's a great man. We work together at times trying to get that. But for us, we're kind of the end game. There's so many great organizations out there that get people, quote unquote, job ready by training them through either mobility skills or or hard skills and working with the office suites. But at the end of the day, we're here to employ and create that independence. But we're doing some things different. AIB is not a service. We're an employment first. There are a lot of great advocates and service providers in the Valley. We're just not one of them, but we're here to employ. We are a business. And somebody said, "How do you do that?" And I said, "It's no different what you do today. As the difference is, we just put the cap on of we're a nonprofit and we employ people who happen to be blind or visually impaired."
Right.
And Tanner does
Excellent.
a great job of assisting us and finding some great workers.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you for that context. So
Yeah.
what's coming up in the next 6-12 months, right?
Hey, it's exciting. I'm glad you asked that, man. It's for me, it's really exciting because we're on some things that are that are going to make a difference in our business. Number one is, it sounds a little strange. It has been no different than anybody else. There have been challenges coming out of COVID with employment, but the biggest one for us is when I would say the obstacles for people who are blind or visually impaired or disabled. Number one is always transportation. So everybody would think it's just easy to jump in your car and go to work. When you're blind and visually impaired, it's not that easy. But you got the Waymos out there. You've got a bigger reach now with that. The public transport that the mayor's working on tremendously. It helps tremendously with us. And some of the transportation initiatives that she has and some of our congressmen and senators have in the state. All that helps tremendously as movement. Okay, that's one. But behind that is having the wherewithal and the business to support that growth. And that growth right now, we're getting ready to get into some new product lines. One of them is air filters. We've partnered with 3M. That's really exciting. What that means is we're going to be able to be the provider of air filters for the majority of air filters for the federal government.
Huh.
Really unique.
That's a big one.
That's a commodity. That's a big deal. 3M's more excited than we are. They do well in the home market, in the commercial industrial market. Has always been somewhat of their weakness. And with some of the things we're going to be able to do and make that offer to them and with them and partner with them to the federal government, that's a really big deal. If we get it on something called a procurement list, and in the federal government, that's mandated.
Right.
That credit card holder who buys commodities, products, or services with taxpayer dollars, that they have to buy
from that menu.
That's correct. So if we put that little tag on that, that's really big business, Tim. And we're excited to get that off the ground. That could really almost double us in size pretty quickly.
Wow, very cool. That's exciting. Okay,
well,
excellent.
It's exciting. I love to employ more people, but in the day, we like growth, and it depends on the day. We've still got to put money in the bank. So
sure.
A lot of things that the building doesn't pay for itself and the lights don't pay for themselves. So we're excited about that. And that's some long term. That's not going to affect just this generation, but many generations to come.
Okay. Thinking of you just reminded me of combining visual assistant technology and neuroscience and government funding and stuff is I had a chance working with WeCab. I can't remember the proprietary name of it, but anyway, they had a neural array that you could put on and like a retainer, like in the top of your mouth, and you could use your tongue to the visually impaired could navigate space with the camera, and
yes,
they would get a map. And I remember somebody was on the Today Show showing this off like 20 years ago, right? But we had, I think it was the SEALs, it was who were looking at using it because they don't like lights, right?
Yeah,
and they so they can navigate underwater through that, with the tongue array and stuff, which was an interesting contract we were trying to get back in the day.
There's an array of products out there, everything from glasses to even your cell phone today, of the accessibility, some of the things that are on there now. It's just amazing. That makes it easier for people who are blind, visually impaired, and or disabled to do their jobs. We have JAWS that reads to you on the computer. We have some magnification that goes along with it. But even how our warehouse management system has Vocalec, which is basically it talks to them. If you remember the old Walkman years ago, it's very similar, but it talks to them. It's interactive.
Okay.
which helps our WMS. There's so many things out there today, Tim, that I'm excited because every single day something new is coming about. And again, that workforce today with a 70% unemployment rate, it's needed. It really is. So there's
Okay. Right.
the people out there are talented that we can't employ everybody.
Right. Okay. Well, that's all great. Thank you, Chris. Sort of a ending series of questions here. Reflecting on your journey, what do you wish you knew earlier about building wealth and success in your career?
Well, that's great. Great question. I wish I didn't take the losses so damn personal. I really did.
Yeah. Well, you said you managed to forget about them pretty well now, but
But yeah, it was
that wasn't
easier.
always
Yeah,
the
it's
case.
easier not to turn left when you got in a car wreck to start with. Yes, sir. Much easier. My ideas behind it was partnerships. I wish I would have looked at partnerships before. I felt like I had to do everything on my own.
Right.
Shame on me. But with age comes wisdom. I've got some great partnerships. I look with some great companies and actually mentors, not just within a national, but also local. Even people here in Arizona would make a difference and does make a difference. So I would say those are two of the biggest. Forgetting and taking the losses so hard, but also making sure that I get some good partnerships out there, not only to mentor but also work with Tim. Those would be extremely helpful.
Okay. Any advice or particular organizations you'd recommend people check out that for such
It's
things?
great. There's so many coaching ones now, and I'm not a member of those, unfortunately, because I've got such a vast array of mentors and people I work with the industry. I've been around so long. But I came up at old school, Tim.
Okay.
Where the vice president of Energizer was willing to take a hand in me. The gentleman who created Cybergenics years ago, it was a weight loss program, really worked with me years and years ago in the health and wellness field. But that was when people took interest in younger and mentoring and worried about succession planning. I don't know. We've done a great job in our market space today in our channel, much less overall. I don't hear that a lot. But those are still the ones that work best because number one, you don't have to pay to be part of them. You get a intricate, personal, intimate
Yes.
site inside of an organization, and there's nothing like being thrown in the deep end to learn how to swim. And I was fortunate to be part of that. I don't know that's still a successful game plan for many. It worked for me in my generation.
Right. It's that those are all great points again. Chris, the nature of modern Western civilization being more selfish, right? And
It's about me, not we.
yes, yeah, your culture being team-based and all that is very very telling. And you're right. I think it used to be considered just simply your responsibility, right? As a
That's correct.
successful person to pass it forward.
Yep, and I wish it still existed, Tim. There were so many things that could be learned and worked, and in the end of the day, I think we'd be better for it. But I can't speak for everybody else. I think we do a great job here at AIB doing so. But we'd like to think that other organizations are catching along and still doing that, Tim.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Chris. Yeah,
Okay.
I'd like to think so too. So thank you for your time today and sharing your insights and tips with us. If people want to connect with you, what should they do?
So there's a couple things. I've got an email address. It's C LaFollette, CLAF as in Frank, OLLETTE at AZIFB.com. That's the easiest way to do it. And they can always reach me here at Arizona Industries for the Blind. I'm always accessible.
Okay, excellent. All right. Well, thank you for watching. Thank you
Thank
very
you so
much,
very
Chris.
much. I appreciate it, Tim.
Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. All right. Everybody, till next time.
Inspired by our guests? Visit PhoenixProsperityPodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.